Good morning, backpackers. Welcome to Buck's Backpack, and I'm Buck. Today we're going to talk about bench strops. And why do we use a bench strop, you ask? I'm glad you asked that. Let's think about sharpening a knife. When we sharpen a knife, we move the blade away from us, and in the process of doing that, we start to roll up a tiny, tiny little roll on the far side of on the sharp side of the blade. That's called a burr, and if the burr gets too long, it's called a wire edge. Now, when you touch the blade, you can feel a very, very sharp edge, but after you've gone through progressive stones, you won't feel the wire edge even though it's there. And when you begin to use it, it'll snap off, probably at the worst possible time, and you'll have a knife that's dull after all that work you did. So we're going to take care of that wire edge by running it on a strop. Now, if this is the bevel of the knife, the wire edge will form something like this. Now, in addition to the wire edge forming, let's take a look at a knife blade. And as we as we sharpen a knife, what we're doing is wearing away the metal on the bevel. When we wear it away, we leave scratches in it. So we leave scratches and we leave a burr, and we need to get rid of that. Here's how we do it. We start sharpening with a very coarse stone. If you buy a stone from Home Depot or from Lowe's or somewhere similar, you're probably going to get about a 400 grit stone. And when you sharpen on a 400 grit stone, it wears away the metal very, very quickly and forms an angle across here called a bevel. Now that leaves a usable edge, but many people like a finer edge. They like a nice mirror finish edge. So what we do is move up to a finer grit, and we'll move up to a 600 grit stone, and we'll do it all over again, and what we'll end up doing is leaving a finer and finer scratches. We'll wear away between the scratches on the blade and leave that smooth, but then we'll put tinier and tinier scratches in it, and we'll have a tinier and tinier wire edge. So I move up to 1,000 grit. Now that feels pretty smooth, but it still leaves tiny, tiny scratches and a tiny, tiny wire edge. Finally, what I do is move up to an 1,800 grit Spyderco ultra-fine ceramic stone. And you know what? It still leaves a tiny, tiny burr and a tiny, tiny wire edge, and tiny, 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 infinitesimally small scratches on the blade. I like a nice smooth blade. When I cut, I want the blade to cut without getting hung up on any of these little saw teeth or any other or the wire edge. And the way that I do that is to strop. So after I've gone to 1,800 on my stone, I'm going to go to 6,000 on my bench strop. Now this is a bench strop. Bench strop has holes in either end, so that if you want to put it on your workbench, you can drill down through the holes and secure it to your workbench. My wife doesn't like me to drill holes in the dining room table, so here's what I do. I take a piece of 40 dur rubber mat and sit that on the dining room table, and then I can strop to my heart's content. And as I strop, the very first passes are going to take these wire edges clean off of the blade, leaving a very, very smooth blade behind it. Now this strop is cowhide strop. It's made from vegetable tan cowhide, and by the way, you only want to use vegetable tan hide for your strops. If you use a chromium strop, it'll salt the leather and you'll end up getting a potential of some damage to your blade. So only use vegetable tan cowhide. This, or of any kind of hide. This particular strop has two sides to it. It has a rough or suede side, and it has a smooth or a finished side. Now, something we have to do to prepare our strop. We want the finished side particularly to be supple. We want it to be supple because we want to pull just a little bit against the blade. If it skips over the strop, it needs to be treated. Personally, I like to treat it with saddle soap. I'll just rub a little bit of saddle soap into it with my finger. You can see it start to turn color. That's the lanolin soaking into the leather. We want the leather to be supple without being soft. What do you mean, Buck? Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Let's go back to our drawing for just a moment. And this is the surface of the leather, and this is my strop, or my blade that I'm going to strop on it. I want to touch the surface of the leather without pushing into it. If the leather is too soft, what I'll do is push into it, and when I push into it, it'll form a wave, and that wave will roll over the edge of the bevel and actually dull your knife. So if you just barely touch it, and touch it at the same angle as your bevel, and you'll get rid of your wire edge and your burrs, and you'll polish it up. Now, the leather has silicates in it, and the silicates will help scratch off the burrs, help scratch off the scratches. If you want to improve on that, you might want to use some kind of a polishing compound. Normally what I use is polishing compounds called black. And we went to, if you recall, we went to an 1800 grit stone to sharpen the blade, and now we're going to go to a 6000 grit compound. We'll just crayon that on there just a little bit. And I'm putting this on the suede side. And why am I doing that? Because 6000 grit is pretty aggressive, and it's actually going to take off a little bit of metal. Now after I've done this, and I'll wear this in and it'll turn kind of gray on me, but after I've done this for a bit, then I'm going to switch it over and I'll go to the smooth side. And on the smooth side, I put in green compound. Green compound is about a 50,000 grit. And all this is going to do is polish the blade. It's not going to cut more metal off. So there we've got it. We start off with a 400 grit store-bought stone, move up to a 600 grit, 1000 grit, and then an 1800 grit, and then we get into the polishing compounds at 6000, finally 50,000. We have a mirror polish on our blades. There are other options for strops. This strop is made from cowhide. This strop is made from a hide called latigo. And the latigo is cowhide that's been further treated past the vegetable tanning. Waxes and oils are added to it to make it even smoother and more supple. So by itself, this is already like this after it's been treated. If you treat it, then you have a really, really fine polishing system. And this comes both with the suede and the soft or the smooth side. Finally, something I've just come up with is felt. And on my felt strops, I don't put any compound. All I do is just use the blade on it. And when I roll that over, I've got a smooth surface to strop on for the final stropping. I always end up with a final smooth stropping. Let me demonstrate something. This is my old K-bar. It was made back in the 40s during World War II. And you can see where it's starting to wear a little bit because it's been sharpened so much. I polished this on my felt. And bear in mind, this was made in the 1940s. That'd be 70 some years ago. I carried this all through Vietnam. I've used it all of my life. And after I strop it on felt, it just cuts like a razor blade. So if you'd like to talk about my strops or talk about somebody else's strops, or if you'd like to talk about a custom strop, you can get a hold of me through my website at info@bucksbackpack.com. I hope you'll visit my website and take a look at what we have to offer for strops and other materials. I'd be happy to make a custom strop for you if you have a special need. Just give me a call or give me an email. This is Buck out.